Hey guys, it's Hannah. I wanted to do a book chat for a couple of reasons. Several of these books, or not several because there's not several here, but multiple of these books are coming out this week. One of them came out last week, so I did want to run through them really quick with you guys, just in case it's something you were interested in. And also I've opened a kind of a mini library at my work in my office, just for my coworkers, and a couple of us are going to set them up and just have like 5 or 6 books that we recommend to other people, like to each other, and kind of trade books that way. There are 6 offices like on the same hallway plus 3 registration cubicles, so there's like 9 of us right there that kind of share one space, share the same printer, and interact with each other all day every day for the most part. So last year I challenged everyone in my office to read 12 books. That didn't really go very well. A couple of people started. Most people didn't even get to 6, which again is fine. That wasn't really the goal. Of course, the goal is to challenge them to, reach out, do something that's like positive, self-care thing, good for your brain, good for relaxation if reading is relaxing to you. But just something a little different. And what I've told several of them is, if you have a hard time reading, maybe you're trying to read the wrong thing. So that being said, I do read a little bit of everything, and they don't really believe me. Now I think they do, now that I've brought a few books to my mini library, but I'm going to add some of these to them as well. Also trying to keep in mind that if they're advanced reader copies, I'm not taking them prior to launch necessarily, just because I feel like I've gotten it sent to me. I want the chance to like really review it, sit with it, whatever, and those have been posted online. If I'm able to get them out prior to launch, fantastic. But it's not really necessarily the final version of the book, so if there are any edits or anything to it, and someone's interested in the book and they want to get it from a real library or whatever, or to purchase it for themselves, I would encourage them to also do that. So that's not my intention in taking any of these books there, is to like cheat authors out of money or anything. It's really just about encouraging my coworkers to pick up a book. So I did give them like a little reading log. Again, this year it looks different from last year. This one actually has 15 slots on it, but title, author, genre. And then I said, if you want a second one, I'll give you a second one. If you don't finish the first one, that's okay. But I have these books here that I really enjoyed, and if you want to borrow one, that's great. So that's kind of where we're at with that. But these are all books that I received either like through giveaways or whatever, mostly pretty much giveaways. I think all of these I actually got from Goodreads. So that's it. One, Carleen O'Connor, Murder at an Irish Chipper. This one is part of a series. This one was part of a giveaway before the most recent book was released, which was Murder in an Irish Garden, I think. So this was kind of to hype up the next book in the series. There is another book releasing this year. So I think this one's book number 6. They're set in Ireland, obviously, so you have the dialect there. I got some of these in audiobook from the library and some of those in ebook from the library because I did want to read all of them before. You don't necessarily have to read them in order, but there is a background plot line. So some things will make more sense if you read them in order, but if you wanted to just pick up one, you totally could. This one I really liked. I liked all of them. They're like cozy mysteries, I feel like. You know, they're like casual reads, quick, and the small size means it's great to put in your bag. But the first one was really, really good. I think the second and third one were like 4 stars for me, but this one's really, really good. Some of them are funnier than others. Some of them are a little bit more of what you would expect. It's not, you know, terribly deep or anything, but I really enjoy all of these. And she does have another set of like mystery books, another series, so I think I'm going to try those out at some point as well. Well-Being by Valentina Gaylord, a story of healing from autoimmune disease and a guide to charting your own path to wellness. She did sign it for me. Very nice. And nothing against her or whatever, but from just reading the front, I would think that it would be her story, things you can do, you know, to avoid autoimmune diseases, I don't know, and then if you find yourself in a similar situation, where do you go from there? It's not set up like that. I found it to be a little bit challenging to read in that I just didn't think it flowed well. Not to suggest that you not pick it up, but part 1, my story and the start of yours, part 2, mental wellness, part 3, emotional wellness, part 4, spiritual wellness, part 5, physical wellness. And in each of these parts, even after you're 100 pages in, she's going to go, the reason that I'm writing this book, and so that was kind of irritating to me. There are also some resources at the end, so that I think is helpful. It's not like the best out there, but there's also like a couple of books in the back, 2 or 3 suggested reading. So it's not that it's like horrible or anything. I did give her 3 stars because I do think her language and how she's discussing this topic is great, but the resources page is literally one page. Teachers and practitioners that she thinks are inspiring or useful. 3 books, 3 specific books. And 2 of those are part of the Medical Medium series by Anthony Williams. So there you go. Supplements with a specific website. It doesn't say which supplements specifically. A Pilates suggestion, health coach training from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and then her socials. So I wouldn't say that it's an intensive list or anything. It's just not what I thought. I thought she was going to tell us about herself and then set up, you know, a guidebook of, okay, if this happens to you, these are the steps or the resources, the steps you need to take or the resources that I used so that you don't have to search for all of these yourself. And it's kind of not. I think if it was set up differently, it would make more sense to me as a guidebook. I think if it was marketed differently the way it's written, it would make more sense as well. But I did post my review and she did respond to me, and I said, you know, thank you for sharing your story because it It's kind of a big deal that you put it out there. This is your personal life. And she, you know, thanked me for my words or whatever. She wasn't upset or anything. And truly, it's just my opinion. I thought it would be different than it was. And I was very excited to read it. And then I had a hard time getting through it and making it make sense. And when I'm more than halfway through a book and the author is still like, this is why I'm writing this book, that doesn't really connect. There's a disjoint somewhere. Something's not connecting. So for me, that is a pass. But if you want to pick it up, pick it up. It's not like the worst thing, but I just didn't think that it was particularly helpful. Rules of the Heart by Janice Hadlow. This one actually came out last week on the 20th, so 1 week tomorrow. It is pretty hefty. It's almost 500 pages, 450, 500 pages. Let's see. The full size will be $30 US. It is historical fiction, but these are based on true events. Specifically, the main character is Lady Harriet Bessborough, and it starts out pretty much in 1794. Like, that's the main crux of where we find ourselves after the fact. The inciting event, if you will. But I thought it was really interesting. I read it over 2 days because, like I said, it's hefty. But the first couple of chapters were slow and lengthy. After that, it definitely picks up. So if you're someone that DNFs a book pretty quickly, if you don't get into it, this might not be for you. It is definitely for historical fiction lovers, but also at the end there are, in the acknowledgments and in the author's note and the afterword and all of that, some additional information about the research that went into this book and how they were able to kind of establish some of these facts of the book, because a lot of it is obviously fictional because we don't know. 1794, early 1800s, there just isn't that much documentation about everyone's life. They were letter writers, but a lot of them were destroyed by her family or the other people's families. But lots of intrigue. I was into it. I thought it's very interesting. If you don't like historical fiction, maybe not for you. The Seven Daughters of Dupree by Nikisha Elise Williams. This one comes out tomorrow, so this is one of the ones that comes out tomorrow. This is an advanced reader copy as well, obviously, since it's not out yet. Again, historical fiction, but based on likely events, things that to some degree happened to a lot of people in the US, specifically when you're talking about slavery. It is like kind of a heavy topic. There is sexual abuse, domestic violence, all of those things are talked about. Not all of them are necessarily graphic in your face, but many of them do happen on the page, even if it is a brief little mention. So if that's a hard pass for you, skip it. But I do think it's very interesting. And if you've read Barracoon by Zora Neale Hurston, getting way back into the English lit, but if you've read that, which many people have if they take an American literature class, the gentleman that she's interviewing was on like one of the last slave ships, and so I don't know if you say owner of that ship, he is the gentleman. I don't think I'm going to call him a gentleman, but the main male character, Mr. Dupree. So very interesting, could definitely be triggering, but also I don't think that it's something that we necessarily need to be quiet about or need to forget about. Like, this happened to people, and just because we don't like it or it makes us uncomfortable doesn't mean we should ignore it. So this was really good and I really enjoyed it. This one is more fictional, but you do have to keep in mind that these things that they're talking about happen to a lot of people. So even though these women are fictional, the things that happen to them for the most part are not. Some things are just fictional, but it's really fantastic, a really good read. I read it in one day. Just kidding, no I didn't. That's not the one I read in one day. I read it after work every day last week. It took me like 4 days, but that's not the one I read in one day. I did read this one and the next one in one day. Humboldt Cut, Allison Mick, also comes out tomorrow. So, like I said, a bunch of these are coming out. This one is eco horror, so I wasn't really sure. This is my first foray into that world. But again, I thought it was very interesting. But there's not any kind of like a trigger. There is a small content notice in the front. Depictions of horror level violence, death, dying, pregnancy, including abortion, traumatic birth, infant death, sexual assault, suicidal ideation, and mental illness, references to ableism, racism, sexism, and anti-Semitism. People that don't like Jews. Semitism. It would be good if I could say the word. I just can't say that many words all in a row. But I think this probably needs a full trigger warning page, just because, like, kind of what we see in like most dark romances now, because the discussion of mental health topics, in particular certain ideations, is very prevalent, very dark. The main character is a nurse at a mental health facility, but also dealing with her own mental health struggles and the whatever you call it in the front. What do you call it? Who this book is written to, you know what I mean. I'm tired. I also worked 19 days in a row, so forgive me. But this is to everyone who's still here, especially when they didn't always want to be. So mental health is obviously very important to the author. And so I think highlighting that this is going to not only be dark in a horror sense, gory in a horror sense, but that there's going to be a lot of not just unaliving, but mental health, invasive thought stuff going on. So if that's not something you can deal with, maybe skip this one. There are creepy characters, but it's also centered around a logging community. So I thought it was really interesting and I really enjoyed it, but not for everyone. I think this is probably a very niche book. It's going towards a very niche market. And yeah, I don't. So Allison Mick this is her humorous eco horror debut. There are lots of funny side notes as well. But I wouldn't read this just because she is a comedy writer, because it is definitely horror. But I do recommend this, but not if mental health stuff, if that will be too much for you. And the last one, I also read this one in one day by Clay Kane, Burn Down Master's House. This also comes out tomorrow, and I received this copy last week, so I bumped it up, but they sent me a really nice hardcover version with the nice dust jacket. It's going to be on sale for $28, but really nice. Again, historical fiction, but this one has way more fact in it than the 7 Daughters of Dupree. This is these people, maybe amalgamations of multiple people from history, and Clay Kane goes into that at the end about who inspired these characters, because they are all inspired by real people and real events. And there's footnotes in here. There's additional reading. This is very well documented. These things did happen, even if they didn't happen in the same place or necessarily exactly the same way in this book. So it is only 4 chapters, but so each chapter tells a different story. The first one being the story of Luke and Henri. They go on, and we see them later in the book. Chapter 2 is chapter 2 is about 75 pages in. Josephine. So he merges 2 different Josephines into this Josephine, to make this story A, make sense, and B, shed light on the situation. Chapter 3 is Charity. This is a very well documented situation from a slave woman who becomes free, lives her life. The slave master comes back and says no, the way that she ended up being freed was illegal. Now she and her children should still come back and be my property. This is documented. It was a whole court case. It went to the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania. And so the events here are fictional in that we don't actually know what happened to the real person after she was returned to him. Her children were as well. We don't truly know what happened to them, so those facts are fictional as far as, what actually happened to them. But everything before that happened is documented, and it is something that I remember hearing about in high school, as far as in history class, American history. Chapter 4 is Nathaniel and ties back in some of these other characters that we met earlier in the book. So Clay Kane has brought all of these stories together and brought these very well documented facts in most cases, and then at the end he does have some really good discussion questions. There's actually 20 of them, which is kind of a lot, even for a really heavy book group. But I think this would be good for a specialty American history course at college level, or even like an AP history class, because these discussion questions are just really, really good. But also in his acknowledgments and his author's note, he details where he gets a lot of his sources, which are also in the footnotes. So you can find all of that, but also the facts briefly written down for the inspiration for his characters. So this is more of a resistance type of book. And I do think if you think that this is uncomfortable to talk about, you probably should read it and discuss about it, because it is our history and it is something that we do have to keep in mind and confront, because our biases make us who we are. And I think ignoring that things like this happen, hiding from things that actually happen, that's not okay. Not that I personally can do anything about what has already happened, but validating other people's situation, their truth, their life, their story is very important. And I think a lot of this was covered up. These are only a few stories, and a lot of the history and atrocities that happened definitely were brushed under the rug, not documented, or people were just allowed to do them, which is not cool. So I do think that one's a must read as well. But if you were gonna pick between these two, this one is the more fictional one. I wouldn't call either one of them a casual read, but this one is more for the history buff, and this one is more for the person who prefers like historical fiction. This one's women's stories. This is a mix. This is more a story of resistance, even though this one, they still did all the things. But as far as acting out or standing up to the powers that be, this one is less of that. This one that's the central theme here, is burning it down and rebuilding it. That's where we're at. This one, still very good, much more fictional. Not that these characters aren't fictional. To some degree, they are. But there's much more fact in there. But again, these three are all releasing tomorrow. I recommend all of them. This one also. Oh, actually, I recommend most of these. Well-Being by Valentina Gaylord is the one I liked the least, honestly. But it is what it is, and not everything is for everyone. Maybe I'm not the target audience. But thank you. I am going to take some of these to my mini library at work. And I will catch you guys later. I have 2 books that I know are coming out in February. 3 that are coming out in March. 1 for, no, 1, 2, 3. Oh no, guys. Okay, 2 are February. 5 of them are March. 1 for May, and 1 for fall of this year. I don't remember off the top of my head the exact date, but so I have those that I'm going to try my best to read and review prior to launch, so that I can share with you, but also give the authors and the people of the internet that feedback, because they went through the trouble of sending these to me in plenty of time for me to read and review them before they came out. And then I have some books, of course, that I was sent before or sent after they came out. So if I get them after they've already come out, I rotate them with books that I've purchased. So I'll do a book that I've purchased and then a book that I was sent through a giveaway or from the publisher or whatever, and I'll rotate like that as far as reading and doing my audiobooks while I'm doing things or at work or whatever. But physical books, that's kind of how I separate them as far as getting things out. But I'm going to try to be really intentional this year about reading things that I get prior to launch if I'm able to. Obviously, if I get it 1 week before, I have to prioritize it. I was able to make it happen with that one because I didn't even have a full week, but I really wanted to read it and I was able to squeeze it in right in time. So I'm trying also to, when I am at home, unless I absolutely have to be doing laundry, washing dishes, whatever, something where I can't read a book at the same time, any other time I'm going to read a physical book, unless I'm just finishing up an audiobook, because I feel like last year I consumed so much media and it was because I was just knocking out audiobooks like crazy, which is great, but there wasn't like that intentional sit down, relax, read the book kind of a thing. So that is what I'm looking for in 2026, and I hope that I'm able to do that. But so far, 4 of the 6 books I read this month, so in January. So far so good. The other ones I did read last year, but I'm working on doing better at that. And then as I'm collecting up things that I got from giveaways or advanced reader copies, I will share them with you guys, because if I can share with you prior to launch, I'll do that. And if I can hype up an author's book that I really like, then I want to do that. And if I really don't like it, I'll tell you. It has to be really, really bad for me to rate something below a 3, though, to be honest. 3 to me is like, I didn't like it, but the writing was fine. If the writing is bad and I don't like it, that's terrible. So you will rarely hear me say something below 3 stars, but I also tend to be kind of stingy with my 5 stars. It just depends on how I'm feeling. Most things that I rate at 4 stars. That means I enjoyed it, but I may or may not recommend it to someone. I might recommend it to a specific person, but maybe not everyone. If I really, really enjoyed it, I think it's really great, and I wouldn't recommend it to like everyone, then it's a 5. That's just, I'm gonna be quiet now. Bye guys, I'll catch you guys later with more stuff. Bye.